Hello and welcome to episode 15 of On The Sidelines. My name is Benedict Rhodes.
And I'm Matthew William Bruni.
We have a lot for you on today's show, as always. Not a lot important happening in the world today, Matthew, especially down south. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Just school and work is all happening right now, so that's really it for me. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, just trying to tune out what's going on south of the border in America. Today's November 3rd, 2020, for context.
Mhm.
Um, um, Other than that, I'm just here at Heinz Field here in Pittsburgh, as we'll talk about in a little bit. So I want to get started, Matthew.
Yeah, so it has been, I think, like 2 weeks or so since our last episode, so we weren't able to sort of recap the World Series or give our update on the World Series. So since then, the season came to a close last Tuesday as the Dodgers won the World Series against the Rays in 6 games. Some would question, I mean, probably almost everybody would question the move that Kevin Cash, their manager, made in the seventh inning when he pulled Blake Snell. What did you think about this? What would have been presumed mistake from Cash?
Yeah, it was a weird one. I know. I think Snelling had already been through the order twice, and Cash didn't want him going through a third time. I believe it was, um, which is maybe analytically makes sense to Kevin Cash and the Rays who've been doing all this analytical stuff. But from like the eye test, like Snell was really really good, and I personally wouldn't have taken him out of the game. Um, like I say, if someone's dealing, you don't take him out of the game for a cold reliever. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he got like over 100 pitches, or no, seven. Wait, sorry, it was like 70 something pitches um, in that game. So I mean, it was sort of like wasn't a complete game for him. I think he should have continued after the seventh inning. But I mean, in the end, like the team was leading 1-0, and they just blew it at that time when they took out Kevin Cash, and he relied on his bullpen after that, which I don't think was a good idea for trying to force a game 7. But yeah, in the end, it was just a mistake, I think.
And obviously, the Tampa Bay Rays have been known for a while now to have a very good bullpen, especially this season. Their bullpen is part of the reason they made it to the World Series. But I guess also Kevin Cash he's paid to make that decision. So obviously, if he thinks it was the right decision, then it must have been the right decision. But hindsight's 2020, I guess, and it didn't end up working out for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate for Snell, who was just had a great overall postseason and also a regular season too. Like just to see how that unfortunately ended for him was just like I said, unfortunate.
Yeah, and he looked pretty disappointed when he came out of the game too. He said some things I won't repeat. It looked like, and he looks pretty upset. So I feel bad for him as well. Wasn't his decision to come out, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see how. Hopefully he'll manage that. Like hopefully he still has good communication with his manager. But or yeah,
And earlier in that series, in Game Four, the Rays sort of put the pressure on the Dodgers with a big performance in Game Four, coming back to beat them in the bottom of the ninth inning. What did you make of the Game Four game?
yeah. I think after that, like I mean, first of all, the Dodgers could have won this World Series easily, like in Game 5. Like it could have been finished a couple days earlier. But I mean, all like that crazy Game 4 in the ninth inning, like just I feel like it was just like a once in a lifetime thing to see that kind of error from the Dodgers catcher there. Um, and yeah, like I said, I thought that Jansen would be able to close it out in that game. Unfortunately, he didn't. But of course, we know in the end the Dodgers did win. I sort of thought the Tampa Bay Rays would have some motivation, like going into Game 5, maybe lead the series 3-2 um, after Game 5, perhaps. But I mean, yeah, it was just like I said, I thought the motivation would go to Tampa Bay, but in the end, the Dodgers kept their posture and just it wasn't a big deal on them after that. But yeah, that's what I would say.
And there's a lot of good players on both sides in this series. Randy Rosarena, of course, for the Rays, had a good series again. On the Dodgers side of things, Mookie Betts, Clayton Kershaw, Cody Bellinger, all their big hitters. But Corey Seager ended up winning the MVP. Do you think that was a good decision?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, he had a very productive. I think even in the NLCS, he had a productive series against the Braves. I'm pretty sure it was like 4 or 5 home runs he hit, if I'm not wrong. So, I mean, I think we predicted like when we made our predictions for MVP. I think I said Cody Bellinger, who also was a productive player for the team. I also would have probably picked Mookie Betts after that home run in Game 6 that put them up 3-1,
Yeah.
and of course, his productive hitting in that series too. But I think it was a good decision to give Seager it. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I don't think they made the wrong choice with Seager, but I personally would have gone for Mookie Betts. He robbed a couple of home runs in the World Series and a couple times during the playoffs generally. Hit that huge home run in Game 6, like you mentioned. So personally, I think Mookie Betts probably would have been my MVP.
Yeah, I mean you can't go wrong with Betts, right? I mean he was just a dominant player, and yeah, I mean like I said, I think the motivation like that Seager had made him win this MVP, just the great postseason he had. But now looking back, as the off season has now, it's been now 1 week since the off season has been in effect. Do you think overall the season was a success after what kind of happened in the first week of the season?
Yeah, the start of the season was a bit rocky. We mentioned it on Off the Sidelines when you were making that series. Um, it didn't look like it was going to work out for a while, to be honest. Like I think we even said like it would be surprised if it was more than a month. But in the end, they got it done. So all credit to them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, just like that first week when the Marlins outbreak happened, and then we saw the Cardinals outbreak happen a week or so later. I was kind of concerned to not see the season finish. And the first thing I thought, like when they said that they weren't playing in bubbles when they were just going to play in their home fields, like that was kind of a concern because I didn't know how players would like deal with that and how they would handle that kind of situation. But I think obviously now that the World Series is done and they just had a postseason in 4 different stadiums. I mean, going from the ALDS and NLDS to the World Series, of course, I think that the season overall was definitely a success, especially for a 60-game season.
And then, of course, one thing we haven't mentioned yet, of course, was the Justin Turner incident in the World Series Game 6. Like, Justin Turner tested positive prior to Game 6, and they didn't tell him. Or they didn't make it, he didn't tell his team that he tested positive, and the game went ahead. He was pulled out in the 7th inning, I believe. He was taken out of the game. So who knows how many people he would have come into contact with during that game. After the game, he was told, do not leave the locker room, but he did. He went on the field without a mask on, getting close to a bunch of his teammates and coaches and some who have young kids. Or Dave Roberts, the Dodgers manager, is a cancer survivor, I believe, so he's a high risk. Like Justin Turner made a stupid decision, and I expect to get punished for it. But MLB has a decision to make now. I think like if the Game 7 might not have happened if Justin Turner if the Dodgers hadn't won that game. I don't know if Game 7 would have even been played.
Yeah, I mean, when that happened, like first of all, when I heard that news after Game 6, like I was just like, kind of shocked. Like I didn't really expect something like that to happen, especially since they were playing like since the Dodgers have been that same stadium, like probably in the same hotel too, since the NLDS. So they haven't really been traveling anywhere. So I was kind of surprised to see how like I was kind of like just wondering how he would have even received COVID. And then maybe I thought like because they let their families in the bubble, maybe there wasn't like a great testing strategy going on there or something like that. But I mean, I don't think I think the MLB kind of screwed up in that way and like letting him know literally in the 8th inning, just like an inning before that they were going to win the World Series, that he tested positive. So I don't know if it was handled. I don't think it was handled well by the MLB, but yeah, I do think he should be punished in a way for going out there and celebrating with his teammates and his manager and everyone else. But yeah, that's what I would think.
It sounds as well like that he was told very clearly you are not to leave the locker room, and then he made the decision to. And I think if you do that, you're breaking the protocols that he agreed to when he agreed to play this season. So I imagine there'll be some kind of punishment there. Although if he gets punished and the Astros didn't, that also set a dangerous precedent. So MLB's kind of in a sticky situation here, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think MLB's lucky that they didn't have to have a game seven because I
Yeah,
don't think that I think it could have been a couple of days until we could have seen that
at
game
least.
happen. It definitely wouldn't have happened the next day after Turner tested positive. But lucky for MLB, they didn't have to go through that. And yeah, here we are.
And also, he's a free agent this offseason. So if next season is going to be a shorter season as well, if let's say he misses 10 games, if there's a 60-game season again next year, that's a big chunk of the season. So that could affect. I don't think it'll be a 60-game season next season, but if it is, that could affect his ability to sign with the team for next season even.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely too early to find out how long the season's going to be. I mean it could still be 162 or 60, but yeah, I think giving him sort of a game in punishment would be probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to the MLB awards from the just the past season. Of course, the awards were announced on Monday, just this past day. The Cy Young, the rookie, MVP, and Manager of the Year awards were announced. And we're gonna now that we know who the finalists are for each award, we're gonna go through who we think is going to win each award. We're going to start on the AL side. And we're going to start with the MVP. So we have Jose Abreu from the White Sox, DJ LeMahieu from the Yankees, and Jose Ramirez from the Indians. So Ben, who do you think is going to win this award?
I think probably DJ LeMahieu had the best season. He had a 364 batting average, which is incredible. But in terms of MVP, I think I'm going to go with Abreu, Abreu from the White Sox. I think the White Sox really needed him to step up this year, and he did. So in terms of being the most viable to his team, which is what the award's about, I think I'll go with Abreu.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd say Abreu too. I think he had a great. I don't. I'm pretty sure this is his first or second year in the league, if I'm not wrong. Like he's sort of in his earlier years of his career, but
He's
yeah,
a
I
few
think
more
yeah.
than that.
Sorry.
I think he's a few more than that. I think he's like 5 or 6.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking the wrong
He's
player,
30.
but
He's 33 years old. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, wrong player. Sorry.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, he did have he had a 60 RBI season, and he did have a productive like on base percentage and hitting season in general with 19 home runs as well. So I think, yeah, I think for me, I would say Breu would win. And now next we're going to move on to the Rookie of the Year finalists. So we're going to start. So they're Christian Javier from the Astros, Kyle Lewis from the Mariners, and Luis Robert from the White Sox. Who do you think wins this one?
I think it's going to be Rivera from the White Sox. I think again the White Sox needed their players to step up because they're one of the teams before the season who didn't look like they were going to have much promise, and they ended up having a pretty decent season by their standards anyway. So I think he had 11 home runs, 31 RBI. Um, like he had a good season for a shortened season. So I think he's got to be him for me.
Yeah, I think the White Sox are gonna. Yeah, I think the White Sox are gonna be a team to contend in the future. I mean, especially just after this past season. Yeah, I would say Robert wins this award. Yeah, and as I just mentioned, talking about just the White Sox, I think like in the years to come, I know that they just lost in the wild card against the A's in the wild card series, but I think after this season, they're gonna, maybe sort of be a contender, maybe even perhaps win the division, which they almost did this year. But yeah, we'll see how the future stands for the White Sox. Now we have the managers, the finalists for the AL Manager of the Year. We have Kevin Cash for the Rays, Charlie Montoyo for the Jays, and Rick Renteria from the White Sox. Who do you think wins this one?
I think if we include the postseason in our decision making for this, which I think we should, then I think it's got to be Kevin Cash. Just getting the Rays to the World Series, like we've been talking about the last few episodes, and 40-20 record in the regular season, winning the division is a great season for the Rays. At the same time, Charlie Montoya with the Blue Jays, maybe a little bit of bias, I guess, but getting the Blue Jays into the playoffs. Although it was a short season, the Blue Jays probably weren't going to make the playoffs this year if it was a full season. I think Montoya sort of help steer the ship towards the right direction the Blue Jays want to be heading in. And so I think Cash, but with an honorable mention for Montoya.
Yeah, I would say Cash for me. I think you can make a case for the White Sox manager too. I mean, just for how successful their season was too. They had a 35-25 record this past season, and of course we know that, as I've just mentioned, they lost to the A's in the wild card series. But yeah, I think you can also make a case for the Blue Jays manager Charlie Montoya. I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, if it was a full season, they definitely wouldn't have made the playoffs. But their young core that they have, like of course Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero, and their hopefully up and coming pitching. Of course, that they have Ryu, who we'll talk about just in a minute. And yeah, I think that they're a up and coming team too. Obviously,
The one thing with excuse me, the Rick Renteria of the White Sox is he lost his job. So I don't know if the manager loses his job should win the manager of the year award.
yeah,
It got kind of awkward online when the White Sox sort of congratulated him for winning the award a couple of days after hiring his replacement.
yeah.
But I don't think he should even really be considered if he lost his job. I mean, obviously the stats back him if he had kept his job, but I don't know. Something about it just seems a bit strange.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year, and then he got fired that same year. So,
Exactly.
yeah, we'll see though. But yeah, we both say Cash for that. And then for the AL Cy Young Award finalists, we have Shane Bieber from Cleveland, Kenta Maeda from the Twins, and Ryu from the Blue Jays. Who do you pick for this?
Uh, same with last time, like maybe a little bit of bias, but I think Ryu had a very good season. He's crucial to what the Jays did this year. But I don't think you can pick anyone other than Shane Bieber for this award. He's 8-1 with a 163 ERA and 122 strikeouts. Like those are good numbers. Those are incredible numbers over a full season, especially the ERA, of course. Like 8-1, 122 strikeouts are good over 162 games. So to do that in 60 games with a 163 ERA is just sensational, and I think he has to win this one.
Yeah, I gotta say Bieber as well. I mean, of course, us being Jays fans, I would say Ryu, but I think just with the past season that he had, and as you mentioned, the number of strikeouts that he had, 122, and his 1.63 ERA. I mean, that's just like one plus better than the next, like the second place, or another AL Cy Young finalist in Ryu, who had 2.69 ERA, and Maeda, who was just there at 2.70. So yeah, I think undoubtedly for this it would be Shane Bieber. Um, Now we're going to move on to the NL side of the awards. We're going to start with the Cy Young finalists. So we have Trevor Bauer from the Reds, Yu Darvish from the Cubs, and Jacob DeGrom from the Mets. Who would you pick for this?
I think again, you Darvish and Jacob Degrom both had incredible seasons. Degrom has won the award a couple times, I think already. But I think Trevor Bauer just had an unreal season. Like with Bieber, he had a 173 ERA. Like anyone with sub 2 ERA as a starting pitcher should probably win the Cy Young Award. I think. Although Darvish is 2.01, so he's not far off. But Bauer had 100 strikeouts, 5-4 with a 173 ERA on a Reds team, which maybe wasn't expected to do great things this year. Um, but I think the Reds and sorry Bauer rather had a great season, and there's rumors he might be coming to Toronto this off season, which would be
Hopefully.
interesting. We wouldn't mind to see that, that's for sure. Yeah, I think he has to be the Cy Young Award winner for me.
Yeah, I think it's undoubtedly Bauer. I mean, obviously you can make a case for DeGrom, who had, of course, 100 plus strikeouts, but of course his team wasn't as successful as the Reds, who I mean, who basically didn't give up a run and any of the, well, I mean, almost until, of course, they had great pitching throughout the whole series against the Braves in that 2-game series. But of course, their offense couldn't get it done. That's why, hence the reason why they didn't even score a run in those 2 games. But I think their pitching core is great, and that's why I would pick, I would say Bauer for me as well. Now we have the Manager of the Year award for the NL side. So we have Don Mattingly of the Marlins, David Ross of the Cubs, and Jace Tingler of the Padres. Who would you pick for this award?
I think for me it has to be Don Mattingly from the Marlins. I think the Marlins were expected to be terrible as they've been the last few years. But he managed to get them into the playoffs just about. A 31-29 record, which is I think much better than people expected from them. They didn't go far in the playoffs, or maybe as far as the sort of Cinderella story would have wanted them to go. But yeah, I think the Marlins are good. David Ross had a great season with the Cubs, and Tingler had a great season with the Padres as well. But I think just the pure surprise of how far they got, I think the Mattingly and the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Marlins too. I mean, you could obviously make the case for the Padres manager too. I mean, I mean, we didn't really expect them to be like this successful this past season. Like, I mean, of course, they lost to the Dodgers in the NLDS, but so did the Marlins in the NLDS as well, and both got swept. So, I mean, it's kind of level for both managers. But yeah, I think I would agree that I mean we didn't really expect the Marlins to beat the Cubs in a wild card series. I think we expected the Padres to beat the Cardinals, so that's probably hence the reason why I would lean on the Marlins manager. But yeah, of course we both pick him. Now the rookie of the year in the NL side, we have Alex Baum from the Phillies, Jake Cronenworth of the Padres, and Devin Williams of the Brewers. Who would you pick for this one?
For me, it's between Baum and Williams. I think I'm going to lean towards Williams. All pitchers, uh, I don't know if I think it's kind of a tough one. It's probably maybe one of the harder ones of the list here. I'm going to go with Williams. I think like 4-1 with a 0.33 ERA is sensational, lights out. So I think he's definitely one to watch for the future, and I think he's going to win this one.
Yeah, I'd say Williams too. I mean, that ERA is just, I mean, it's crazy to even just see like a 0.33 ERA. It's just insane. I mean, I think these are more like smaller names. I mean, to be honest, besides Williams, I'm not really that familiar with the other two. So I'd say Williams for me as well. And then finally, we have the NL MVP, who I think we both know who we're going to go for. But we have Betts from the Dodgers, Freeman from the Braves, and Machado from the Padres. Who are you picking?
Well, you said I think you're both know who we're going to go for. I think it's fair to say we're not going to go for Manny Machado.
No.
For me, it's definitely between the other two, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. But I'm going to go for Freddie Freeman. 341 batting average, 73 hits, 13 home runs, 53 RBI. Like those are amazing numbers for a 60-game season, and I think that's a no-brainer for me.
I'm going to go Betts, actually. I
Okay.
think, I mean, of course, obviously, Freeman can win it too. I think maybe I'm just leaning too much on the Dodgers' success this past season and what Betts did. I mean, I wouldn't say in the regular season he was the one of the greater. I mean, obviously in the postseason he was the best player, I'd say, other than Seager and some of his other teammates. But I think, like just from the past regular season, yeah, I would say I definitely. I mean, I don't know for sure what I would say, but I'd pick Betts just because of the success that the Dodgers had.
I think it's time that the MLB gets an award like the Conn Smythe Award in the NHL, like where it's like a playoff MVP instead of the World Series MVP. Because I think if you take the playoffs into account as well, then I think Betts is probably the MVP. But if you look at just the regular season numbers, I think it has to be Freddie Freeman. So I think if there was a regular season MVP and a playoff MVP kind of structure, I think that'd be a lot better. But I don't know if
Yeah,
anybody's interested.
yeah, I think that they would have to consider something like that. I mean, like as you mentioned, if someone has an unsuccessful regular season and then a successful postseason, it'd be kind of tough to decide between those two things. But yeah, that's a great point that you just brought up.
Like someone
Uh,
like Randy Rosarena, for example,
mhm.
like he wasn't turning as many heads in the regular season as he did in the playoffs when the lights were kind of shining on him more. But I think he was definitely the playoff MVP, but not the World Series MVP and not the regular season MVP. So I think someone like him needs some kind of playoff MVP award, like the Conn Smythe Award.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can say he's the Rays MVP. I
Oh
mean, there
yeah,
could be a couple other contenders, but I'd say he's like the MVP of the team. But yeah, that's another point you just a great point that you just brought up. But before we move on, anything else you want to bring up on the World Series and awards?
um, well, we didn't really mention. Forgot to mention that the Gold Gloves are also being handed out tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight's Tuesday, November 3rd. I think I already said that, but in case you forgot. So next week we'll wrap up all this MLB talk and kind of recap everything that happened.
Yeah, for sure.
Now moving on to the NFL. Week 8 just passed. A lot of big storylines this week. One of them being the first start for Tua Tagovailoa from the Miami Dolphins. What did you make of his first appearance, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a great start. I think a lot of people were concerned, like when he was going to go up against Aaron Donald and the Rams. I mean, who knows? He could have things could have been worse with the team, but I mean, obviously, um, I think I mean, it was an okay start. I mean, like I said, it wasn't the best. Like I don't think it was on like a Burrow or Herbert kind of level like we're seeing this past season or with this season with those two rookie quarterbacks, but. I mean, yeah, it was good for a first start, I guess I'd say. It wasn't the best, but what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, he had less than 100 yards, one touchdown, and only 8 first downs. I think was the worrying number. Like in a full game, 8 first downs, and great. Like you can get 8 first downs in 5 minutes on one drive if you're having a good enough game. So that was a little bit of a worrying stat, but ultimately the team got the win, which is what matters. And you mentioned Aaron Donald playing against the Rams as well. Like that isn't a very good team to make your first start against. Such a good defensive team, so we'll have to see. Can't remember who they're playing next, but we'll have to see who they're up against and how they'll fare next time out as well.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say they are in Arizona and they're facing another young quarterback
Oh
in
yeah,
Kyle Murray, so that's going to be another great game to see. Of course, when we talk about the Dolphins, I mean they are second place in the AFC East. Of course, we know the Patriots, who we're just going to bring up very soon, are kind of dropping. So, I
the
mean,
Jets.
and the Jets are just yeah. But yeah, I think I mean I don't think they can make the playoffs, but I mean they could probably like be just like in the thick of the playoff race if Tua has if he continues to rise this season. But yeah, that's what I'd say.
And
And
sorry, just because you mentioned three rookie quarterbacks there, Tua, Burrow, Herbert. Who would you say has been the best so far in this early part of the season?
oh, I mean, uh, I mean, for me, it's obviously between Burrow and Herbert. I mean, it's kind of tough because both teams are not like that great. I mean, the Chargers just blew like a 14 plus lead or something like that to Denver this past Sunday, and Cincinnati, I think, beat Tennessee, which is a great team, of course, an AFC contender. I think overall, I'd say Burrow has had the better season, although I would say Herbert is kind of catching up to him. But yeah, it's kind of like a two-horse race for rookie quarterbacks. But what about you?
Yeah, I agree with exactly that.
Yeah. Um, of course, staying the AFC East, the Bills finally beat the Patriots at home for the first time since 2011. Of course, the Patriots are their kryptonite, which is, uh, I mean, I think it's great for the Bills to finally win against the Patriots, albeit that the Patriots are struggling right now and aren't as great as they were with Tom Brady. But what would you think? What did you think about the Bills being the Patriots finally at home?
It's a pretty good game. I think Josh Allen had a good game. Defense sort of held on. There's a fumble recovery right at the end of the game, I believe. Um, Cam Newton didn't look very good. He's kind of had a bit of a shaky start to his life with the Patriots. Um, so I think the Bills definitely deserve to win. Um, but what that means for the rest of the season, I don't know. I think the Bills are kind of pulling away a little bit now with the division. But again, we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, the Patriots are not on the level that they used to be. Of course, I mean, I sort of thought going into the season that they would compete for an AFC East crown, but of course, it doesn't even look like they're going to even have a chance. But I mean, of course, the Bills have been improved, and of course, they added Stephon Diggs this past offseason. He's been improving, and just their overall team is just. I mean, it's great to. I think they're 6-2 right now too. They did just have two past losses to Tennessee, and I can't remember right now who the
Against
other
Kansas
team.
City.
Right, Kansas City. Yeah. So I mean, they are kind of being the teams they should, and then losing to the contenders that that people would recognize as some of the best in the AFC. Of course, as I just mentioned, the Chiefs and uh, sorry, I'm like forgetting who I'm talking about. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of expected the Bills win this game, and I think that they're gonna pull away from the AFC East now until unless if the Dolphins make some crazy run to the end of the season, but we'll see. Um, there's of course a number of divisional games this past weekend, as I just mentioned, the AFC East with the Patriots and Bills. We also had from the NFC North the Vikings and Packers, who the Vikings surprisingly beat the Packers. Of course, we had the Steelers and Ravens, which was a battle of the AFC North crown, at least for now, until the end of the season. And then we had from the NFC West the Seahawks and 49ers. Seahawks beat them 37-27. And then finally we had the battle for the best league or the best division, I should say, in the NFL, the NFC East, where where Philly beat Dallas 23-9. Which one of these games that I mentioned from the divisional games that is was a big one for you?
I think the Steelers beating the Ravens was probably the biggest statement of intent from all those. I think although the Bills beating the Patriots was sort of a good moment for the Bills to finally get over that hurdle. I think the Steelers beating the Ravens kind of put them an extra game up on the Ravens in the division and kind of showed that they're maybe for real this year. They're now 7-0, I think. Um,
Yeah,
so I think that was a big game for them. And as I mentioned a little bit, the Steelers I think are probably the best team in the league at the moment.
yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. I mean, that just I think it's a surprise for all of us that the Steelers are 7-0. But I mean, thinking back to the past season when they lost Ben Roethlisberger for the whole season, and they had replacement quarterbacks in for the season. And I mean, I give credit to their coach Tomlin, who went 8-8 that season. I mean, of course, we were expecting worse from them, and they had a 500 record, and when they add Roethlisberger, they're obviously a better team, and so you can tell obviously that they're over exceeding expectations with their 7-0 record, and I think it just showed this past weekend when they beat the Ravens.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably thought when Ben Roethlisberger went down for the year that he maybe was done or sort of going towards the end of his career if he wasn't already. But I think in that this year he's showing that he's still got it to some extent. I think he's looking pretty good.
Yeah. With the other team, would you say are you concerned with the Ravens right now? Do you think they have a chance still to win their division or maybe make a Super Bowl run?
Well, like they're not that far back of the Steelers. Like the Steelers are 7-0 and the Ravens are 5-2. So the Ravens could still catch up. Like I'm not saying that the AFC North is over yet. But I think Lamar Jackson has kind of shown a trend of maybe not performing in the big games, which I think he'll want to change sooner rather than later. I think they have some big games coming up too, um, including another one against the Steelers in a couple weeks or in a few weeks. So I think that they need to show that they can win big games and and prove that they're for real. But for now, I think it's still the Steelers' division to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always relate back to Jackson's playoff games. Of course, he's had two in his career already, and he's lost both. So I think people are already go back to those two games that he had in the postseason. So I mean, hopefully maybe he'll have an improved playoffs. We'll see, but yeah, I would just say Pittsburgh's just on a roll right now,
Yeah,
and they have a good chance to go 16-0 too. I mean, looking at their schedule, they do have. I mean, they do have some pretty light opponents, I would say. I mean, just like they have the Cowboys, the Bengals, the Jaguars, Ravens again, the Reds, Washington, I should say now,
yeah,
Buffalo, Bengals again, Colts, and Browns. So, I mean, that's a pretty light
yeah.
schedule. I mean, they could have a chance to like have 14, 15 wins, maybe
There's
six.
there's two teams there maybe that I think can beat them. The rest I would be surprised if they won or if they
Yeah,
lost them. Sorry, like the
yeah,
Bills and the other game against the Ravens. The only games I can see them not being heavy favorites to win.
yeah, definitely. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes for them. But yeah, definitely.
And the same can't be said about the Jets, however. They're 0-8 halfway through the season, still winless. We asked this question a couple weeks ago. Will the Jets go 0-16? Do you still back that?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I think the only best chance they have to win is, I mean, I wouldn't say even the Patriots right now, but I mean, they don't really have any great chances to win, I'd say. But I mean, yeah, just they're gonna. I'm assuming they're gonna be 0-16. They have a great chance to have a losing record. I mean, the only game that I really see them winning against is maybe, I don't honestly I don't know. Nobody,
Oh,
nobody.
look at the next 8 games against the Patriots, the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Raiders, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Browns, and the Patriots again.
I mean, the Patriots are the worst team on their, or actually the Chargers. The Chargers and the Patriots are the teams with the worst record on their schedule. So I mean, obviously they have a chance, but I don't think that I don't think they'll have a chance to win. Maybe just one game, but that's really
Maybe
it.
one of the two against the Patriots if they figured them out in the first game that beat them on the final day of the season or something.
Yeah.
But again, I can't remember what I said last week when we asked that question. But I think if my answer wasn't 0-16, then I'm changing it to yes, they will go 0-16.
Yeah. Maybe in the great Monday Night Football game coming up with the Patriots against the Jets, we'll
Yes.
see.
And
Yeah.
then so again, if you listen to this or if you watch the show and you're a fan of an NFC East team, first of all, sorry. Uh, Second of all, like, man, that division just sucks.
Yeah.
like the Eagles are 3-4-1. They're in first. Then Washington is second with 2-5-0. Cowboys 2-6-0. Giants 1-7-0. Like that division is just like the winner of that division is probably gonna have a losing record. Let's be honest.
Oh, definitely. I would say so. I mean, Wentz had a horrible game. I mean, it wasn't like, of course, he got the win for his team, but I mean, they were facing a third string quarterback in Ben DiNucci. I think he was from like, I can't remember from what university he was from, but
He's undrafted, I think, too, wasn't he? Or
I
like
think
or low rounds anyway.
I think he was a very low round pick. But I mean, anyway, like he was just like, yeah, I mean, the whole division's just like a mess.
On a more positive note, I imagine we're not going to pick in a team from that division, although I have done in the past. Um, but who's your team to watch in the NFC?
I'd say it's kind of a toss up between who you're going to pick, and we'll just mention that soon, and my pick. But I'd say the Seahawks right now. I think that the combination of Russell Wilson and their wide receiver DK Metcalf is. I mean, I think it's been successful so far this past season or in this season. Although I would say they don't have the best defense in the league, I think they still have enough to get it done on offense. And the next 3 weeks are going to be big for them because they are at Buffalo this upcoming Sunday, and then they're at the LA Rams, and then they're hosting the Cardinals, who they just barely lost to a week ago in that crazy Sunday night game. But yeah, I think for me right now, I'd say the Seahawks.
For me, it's Tampa Bay. Tom Brady, and then the crew down there picked up another win over the Giants, I believe. They're 6-2. Not all these games have been convincing wins, of course. They have looked a little bit shaky at times. Brady kind of eased his way into the season a little bit, but they're still winning games, and scraping out wins is what gets you championships, or at least into the playoffs anyway, and give me a chance at a championship. So, uh, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay for now anyway.
Yeah, I think that Monday night game was just. I mean, every contender I think has a sloppy game, and I think that
Yeah.
was their sloppy game, of course. I mean, if they lost that game, I think it would have been shocking to all of us, and we could have questioned like how they were going to perform going forward. But I mean, of course, they got the win, and they have a big Sunday night game against the Saints, who's of course contending for the NFC South. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Breeze and Brady is always a good matchup.
Yeah, definitely, and of course, in their first meeting in the first week, Saints won. So we'll see how if the Bucks can tie up the season series. Now moving on to the AFC, who would you say is your the best team? You'd say.
Yeah, I mentioned this already. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are the best team in the whole NFL at the moment. They're still unbeaten. They just beat, as you mentioned, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. They have bonus points starting a Canadian on their roster. Abbotsford, BC's Chase Claypool, who has 7 touchdowns and has been really good this season. I think he had 4 in 1 game, I think, as well, last week, the week before. So the Steelers are on fire, and I think that's going to continue for at least the next few weeks.
Yeah, as much as I would like to say the Steelers, I'd say the Chiefs still. I mean, they are 7-1. I mean, they are still the Chiefs, of course. Like they're unstoppable offense, and although I'd say they probably had a bye this past weekend in facing the Jets. They do still have some big games coming up. Of course, they still have to face Tampa Bay in Tampa. Well, the Bucks in Tampa Bay, and then they have to go to New Orleans too. So those are some big games against the NFC South that they have to play. So I think we'll really see with those two games how they'll compete. I think it's the AFC right now is coming down to the Steelers and Chiefs. I mean, if we see that matchup in the AFC Championship, I mean, it could, like for me right now, I'd still say the Chiefs. But I mean, if the Steelers can convince us against a contender like going into the final weeks of the season, I'll probably lean on them if they're successful.
Yeah, I think it's between the Steelers and the Chiefs as well. I think maybe an honorable mention for the Bills if they can finally prove that they can beat contenders. Then I think the Bills will be in there as well in that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. But who would you say right now? Like, is your who would you? I mean, I know it's only week 9. We're going into week 9 now, but who would you say is like the overall best team in the league? We just talked about the best team from each conference. Who would you say like best team in like the whole league?
I think I've said the Steelers, but I also think you mentioned the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs just have like if the Steelers have a couple of big injuries or whatever, then I think they're at a worse place than I don't know how to say this. Like the Chiefs would be better off if they lost Patrick Mahomes than the Steelers would be if they lost Ben Roethlisberger.
Hmm.
Or if the Steelers' big players are doing more than the Chiefs' big players, if that makes sense, carrying the team more. So I'm kind of tempted to say Chiefs are the best overall team. But yeah, I'm not really sure. What about you?
Um, yeah, it's kind of. I mean, you could put like 3 or 4 teams. I mean, the teams we all just mentioned can have a chance
Yeah,
to
could be the two.
be.
That could be the two conference finals right there.
Yeah, that it could be really. I think both matchups. If the two teams we picked in each division end up meeting in their respective championship games, I mean that would be a great weekend of football. I think for us fans as fans of the game. But um, I think I'd say the Chiefs for now. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the season goes for them, but. Like I mentioned, if the Steelers can continue to win, I mean, if they have a great game against a contender, let's say, maybe I'll sort of lean to them. And then maybe if the Chiefs have like a bad week against a bad team, I'll probably say the Steelers, but we'll see how, like going into the rest of this season, how it will go. But I think also the Chiefs adding Le'Veon Bell just recently to their offense makes them more unstoppable. Hence the reason why I would still say Kansas City. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
I'm looking forward to week 9 then. Um, there's some exciting matchups coming up. Who would you say are the big or the best matches this week, and who do you think is going to win them? Maybe pick
Well, I
two.
think
Let's say more from each conference, maybe.
I think the obvious one for me in the NFC is the Saints and Bucks. I'd say that that's of course a game for the division so far. I mean, it's only halfway into the season, but I mean, we'll see who would be the better team coming out of that game. I think interdivisional, not in, well, I think that's the right phrase. The Seahawks and Bills, NFC and AFC contender facing off is another exciting game too. I think one thing to mention is that the Seahawks are undefeated on the road. Or no, sorry, they're not because they've faced the Cardinals and they lost against them. But I think like going out to the East and winning a big game like they have against the Dolphins already, And they have one against, I think it was Atlanta too. They've had a couple of like Eastern time zone wins, so I think that doesn't phase them. So I'd say that that's another good game to watch out for. But yeah, what about you?
I think the one I'm looking forward most to is give me that Seahawks and Bills game. I think you get two of the best teams at the moment playing against each other. I think this is a very big game for the Bills. They need to prove that they can beat a contender. And Seahawks are a contender. So if the Bills are going to push for a Super Bowl run, or so they'll probably win the division. If they want to go far in the playoffs, they need to be able to beat the best teams. And I think this is going to be a good test for them. And then the other one for me is going to be the Dolphins and the Cardinals. I think two of the best young quarterbacks, Tua and Kyler Murray. That should be a good game. Let's see what happens. But I'm not sure who's going to win it. I'm leaning towards Cardinals. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and also just to note, also the Thursday night game is an NFC Championship rematch. Of course, the Niners aren't what they are right now with Garoppolo and their tight end George Kittle injured. But I mean, they're facing the Packers, who just came off a loss against the Vikings, as we mentioned. So I think that they'll be more hungry, I guess I'd say, to win this game. But yeah, look out for that too.
Any of the final thoughts on the NFL?
No, I think I'm good, and all I can say is just yeah. I mean, it's exciting to see. I mean, of course, we've had some COVID issues related to the NFL. I mean, they've still been able to pull away with it, but yeah, we'll see how the season continues. I guess we're at the halfway point, which is I'll give some props to the NFL for getting this far. We'll see how they can continue.
Yeah, thanks. That's it then. Any final thoughts overall before we wrap this up?
I'm good. I think if you unless if you want to add something.
No, I think I'm good. Thank you for watching episode 15 now of On the Sidelines. My name is Benedict Rhodes,
I'm Matthew William Bruni.
and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff, and we'll see you next time.